Anything that is done without clear intentions ends up becoming a source of distraction. I'm going to say that again. Anything that is done without clear intentions ends up becoming a source of distraction. Let me give you guys an example. Dating apps. It's an avenue that many guys, and I have myself explored dating apps in the past as well. Approaching dating apps without the right intention ends up wasting your time in a spectacular fashion, because it becomes a drug almost that you can't stay away from, because you like the dopamine it gives you when you receive matches and women message you. You know, you become addicted to it, and oftentimes you don't know that you are addicted to it. So you just find yourself still on the apps, unable to delete them. And it just wastes your time. It really does. And that's just one example, dating apps. This could apply to so many different things. This could apply to choosing a career path, right? You've got to be deliberate and intentional. Create a rough plan. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a 50-page plan, no. But give yourself a rough plan and then execute on that plan. And do not fall into the trap of just coasting without any idea as to where you're going. That's like a plane taking off with no destination in mind. You not knowing what you want in a woman is going to keep you trapped on these apps, swiping away, hoping that one day the right one shows up. Let me tell you this, gentlemen, there are many ones. There isn't the one. There are many potential suitors. But in order to identify those potential suitors, you must know what it is that you want. And also what it is that you don't want. You know, a list of non-negotiables. And once you have those in mind, then you are able to spot opportunities when they arise. Instead of just, you know, it's almost like you're walking in the dark. You don't know where you're going because you haven't made a firm intention. You know what? I want a wife. Someone asked me this question the other day. Ali, I'm struggling to find the right woman to get married to. And let me put my hand up and say that I've made this mistake myself. You know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've been married for 20 years and I've got the hack. No, I'm not married myself, but I have certainly identified the errors in my judgment. And so what I'm about to share with you also is advice to myself as well, which is make the intention that you want to get married and identify what it is that you want, so that when you go out there and you start speaking to women, you are able to identify, okay, this one has the things that I want. This could genuinely be a viable opportunity right here. And this way it prevents you from fucking up something good. Because you might have a great person in front of you, but your lack of clarity on what it is that you want causes you to sabotage something good, because in your mind, there's something greater. So you ruin something that's perfectly viable, something that could genuinely end up being a fruitful opportunity for you in a romantic perspective. But because in your mind, you're like, well, you know, there must be better. And you don't know what it is that's better, because you don't know what it is that you want. So you sabotage, you self-sabotage, and then the cycle begins again. And if you're not careful, this will carry on for many, many years. And then you will find yourself a decade later thinking, why the hell am I unable to get into a relationship? And it's not because you are incapable, you just can't speak. You know, the majority of you, you're, able to at least initiate a conversation. And, some of you guys are witty, you're charismatic. Some of you guys are good looking as well. And some of you have all of those things. And believe me, I've coached guys who are very attractive and appear very confident that are struggling to get into a relationship. And that's one of the things that I've identified, is that they don't know what it is that they want. And they haven't made a firm intention. They're just kind of coasting. They're seeing how it goes. We'll see how it goes. No, you have to be deliberate and you have to be intentional. If you want a wife and kids, make the intention that you want a wife and kids. But if you're like, well, I don't know yet. Women will often ask guys this question. And guys are afraid to say what it is that they want in the fear that, or out of fear, shall I say, that they come across as, too serious too soon. If anything, it makes women respect you, and it filters out the ones that are there to waste your time. You might, I don't know, you might match with a girl that has just recently broken up with her ex, and she's just there to have fun and hook up. And you're at a stage in your life where you want to settle down and get married. And so you two interacting with each other is a waste of time. One person's trying to heal and trying to find someone to help them overcome the grief that they've experienced, which never ends up working out. You just end up being that rebound guy and then dumped again 3 months later. But it's just not a good use of each other's time. But when you know what it is that you want and you make that clear early on, you manage expectations. In sales, this is something that we're taught. Right? This is something I learned when I first got into sales. When you have a client and let's say there's an onboarding process for your product or service, you got to ensure that the client understands what that looks like, just so that you manage expectations, so that they don't feel confused during the process. Right? You should hear back within 24 to 48 hours upon initial checks. We will then XYZ. Give them a timeline, a rough timeline. It doesn't have to be absolute set in stone, right? But I will be in touch should anything be required from you, for example, right? Your mortgage advisor, whatever it is, right? Give a rough timeline and keep this person in the loop. When it comes to dating, for example, just make it clear, if I find the right person, I'm in a position to get into a relationship and if everything goes well, potentially get married as well within the next 6 to 12 months. That's my plan. Right? Does that mean that if, 6 months have gone by and you're not married, that you failed? No, but you've given a clear, timeline. So you're able to attract those that want the same things. So gents, make the firm intention. If you genuinely want to build a business, make the intention that you want to build the business, right? This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Make it clear. Lack of clarity leads to confusion, and confusion leads to paralysis in terms of action. Get crystal clear on what it is that you want. From a relationship perspective, I want a woman who is respectful, who has a good relationship with her family, who aspires to improve her faith, is a God-centered woman. Not perfect, but somebody that strives to improve her spirituality. I want somebody who wants to have multiple children. That might be a point of disagreement between you and a girl. Maybe there's a girl that doesn't want to have kids. And of course, things like that can change. People can change their minds, but you got to have those conversations early on. But it starts with you. You have to make a firm intention. Otherwise, you're just going to coast with no plan, no direction. And you're going to feel so mad at yourself because you're going to feel like you're not in control, like somebody else is controlling you, almost like you're a puppet of some sorts. You're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Take charge of your own life again. You are the CEO of your life, gentlemen. You make the executive decisions. You are not a victim of circumstance. You have the ability to decide. It's in your hands. So make a firm decision. Get crystal clear with your intentions. It starts with you. I just wanted to offer my 2 cents on this because there's a lot of guys that are just engaging in the movements and they don't know where they're going. They haven't made a firm intention. Even when they're out dating women, they don't know what they want. And they feel confused. And they feel misguided. And as a result, they waste their own time interacting with the wrong women. And they waste the women's time as well. It's not fair on the women for you to be a confused idiot who doesn't know what he wants. You're like, well, I don't know right now. We'll just see how it goes. You are leading this woman. You know, you are wasting her time. You wouldn't want that for your own daughter one day, right? You wouldn't want a guy who doesn't know what he wants to play around with your daughter because he's bored. And then 6 months or a year later dumps her because he doesn't know what he wants and I just need to find myself and it's not you, it's me. And, you know, men and women use this excuse. And it's pathetic. It comes from immature people that are unwilling to have serious conversations about what it is that they want. Don't worry about being seen as too serious. There's nothing worse than wasted time. I'd rather be seen as somebody who's too serious but knows what he wants than somebody who's a fucking clown, who's confused, who's wishy-washy. Especially as men, we have to be direct. We have to be intentional and deliberate. It's in our nature. We lead, we make these executive decisions. Women don't want to be around men that don't know what they want, that are confused, that are like, well, we'll see. By the way, where do you want to go eat? No, make a bloody decision. She asks you what it is that you want from this interaction. Well, I think you're a lovely girl. I'm enjoying my time with you. And my plan is, should we continue to enjoy each other's company the way we do and, you know, getting to know each other a little bit closer, my plan is to get married. I want to get married. I want to start my own family. If she then decides to run away because you've just told her that, well, then she wasn't the right person for you. If she then says, well, that's amazing to hear, you know, a lot of guys I speak to, you know, I just feel like they don't know what they want. And it's going to be a breath of fresh air for her to hear this from you. And then from that point onwards, it's important to not ruin the dynamic you have with this woman by continuing to act in a manner that is not in alignment with what it is that you want. So now that you know what it is that you want and you're enjoying this interaction with this woman and you've seen her 4 or 5 times, if you are on the apps, get away from the apps because they will distract you from what it is that you want, which is to get married. Even if you get to know this girl and it doesn't work out later on down the line, you can always re-download the apps. But don't sabotage something good that you have because you're afraid that, yeah, but what if I find better? You know, what if that grass is greener syndrome? That will ruin your life. It will. It will prevent anything good from developing. It's like stepping on a flower and crushing it just as it starts to bloom. That's what so many people are doing in terms of their romantic life, right? They're afraid of something serious developing. And the moment it starts to get serious, they run away. They self-sabotage. Or they start to get to know somebody, but then somebody else starts to speak to them. And they're like, oh, who's this person? Right? Somebody else then starts to speak to them and they find themselves all over the place. And I genuinely believe that dating apps have ruined the process of forming a romantic connection with somebody, because it's all about getting it the next dopamine hit now with these dating apps. It's like, oh, who's this that's just popped up today? Oh, this person's nice to me. I haven't heard a response from this guy in a couple of hours. He probably doesn't care. Unmatch, delete, block. And people ruin something that could have potentially been good for them because there's something else that's just popped up that's exciting. And it never fucking ends. It never does. Yes, technology has helped humanity advance in so many different areas, but it's also held us back in so many ways. 40 years ago, you met a girl, you liked her, you started speaking to her, and that's it. You focused on this girl. There wasn't hundreds of women at your fingertips for you to scroll through every day. Oh, wow, she's beautiful. Oh, who's this? Oh. Yes, cheating still existed. Before somebody comments, well, Ali, people were also cheaters back then. Yes, but it was harder. You had to go out of your way. Now people have a little device, and on this device, they can speak to literally hundreds of people a day if they wanted to. Now, I'm not saying that most people do that, but I would definitely argue that people that are dating are juggling 10, 15, 20 conversations a day with so many different people. And that is so bad when you think about it, because how can you expect something to materialize with one person if you've got 20 conversations unfolding at the same time? You can't have depth. You've got width, but you can't have depth with one person. You're so distracted. Oh, what's this? Oh, what's that? So when you make the intention, right, I want to get married, remove all sources of distraction after that. Every source of distraction, right? I cannot continue to speak to new people because I will ruin something good if I continue to do so. In the pursuit of greater, in the pursuit of something better, I ruin something really good right now. It's that 80-20 conversation, right? You have a person right now in your life who gives you 80% of what it is that you want. But you tell yourself, well, that 20%, I really want that 20%. I want to know how that feels, that extra 20%. So you leave the partner that gives you 80% of what you want in a person. The grass is greener syndrome, only to end up with someone who has the 20% that you wanted, but doesn't have the 80% that your partner had, your previous partner. So now you've gone from 80% down to 20. Let me tell you this, when it comes to human beings, nobody's going to have 100% of what it is that you want in a person. Movies, Disney movies, Netflix, they've ruined what a healthy relationship actually looks like. They've created fantasy worlds in people's minds. Everybody wants to be loved and cared for, of course. But don't let these artificially created environments deceive you by making you feel that what you have right now is boring, is not good enough, she's not beautiful enough, there's somebody better looking. He's not the best you can do. There must be someone else who makes a little bit more money, who drives a slightly nicer car. So you just keep jumping on the bandwagon. When does it end? When does it end? I'll tell you when it does. When you make the firm decision, I'm not going to entertain this garbage mindset any longer. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect myself. And I don't expect my person that I end up with to be perfect, but we will have a beautiful relationship founded on mutual respect, affection, appreciation for each other. That's how it should be. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. Comment, let me know what you think down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. See you in the next video.